What's up, everybody, and welcome to Reviews for My Kids, the show where I recap, review, and reminisce on all of the things I've grown to love over the years to not only share with my kids, but with you as well. Kids, today we're diving into another episode of Doug, who goes from just being a regular kid in school to taking on the role of Mayor of Bluffington. Let's get into it.
That's me.
Tough decisions, new roles, and an ice cream extravaganza. Let's break down the episode of Doug, Mayor for a Day.
Dear Journal. Hi, it's me again, Doug. I know I've always told you field trips are boring, but yesterday's field trip was different. It all began when our assistant principal, Mr. Bone, told us...
As you know, Mayor
We see Mr. Bone standing in front of a bus announcing that the mayor will host the ice cream extravaganza and that each student has to hand in a paper telling them about their future career tomorrow. During the bus ride, Mr. Bone has the students pick a kind of career out of the box, and Doug gets a job as the mayor. As the bus approaches the front of City Hall, the students run off to their chosen career. Mr. Bone also reminds Doug that his report is the most paramount of all and that a bad report will be marked on his permanent record. Doug, realizing the gravity of his job as mayor for the day, walks through City Hall and contemplates a good question for Mayor Bob White for the impending interview. Doug imagines he is doing a report with his news company named Permanent Record and introduces Mayor White in the process. He asks Mayor White what he actually does, to which the mayor responds that he will hire someone as a personal aide. Doug then comes across the mayor in person and reminds him that he is supposed to spend a student government day with him so he can know how a mayor makes decisions. Mayor White tells him a mayor has to be firm and decisive, and even compares himself to a jelly donut, much to Doug's confusion. The mayor escorts him in his office, and as the interview begins, it is interrupted by a phone call. As he takes the call, he asks Doug to take notes. Doug then realizes it's for him, and Mr. Bone is wondering how his report is going, even adding the fact that it will go on his permanent record. Doug imagines himself 30 years later being offered the key of Bluffington by Mayor White when Mr. Bone comes around to inform the mayor that Doug had failed his report. The mayor takes back the key from Doug, and the latter slumps in disappointment. Realizing that his report is in jeopardy, Doug walks out the office to take a second to think. When he returns in the mayor's office, he prefers to ask the mayor simple questions during the interview. Mayor White then gets a call from Mr. Swirly, the ice cream man, through his speakerphone, who informs him that the ice cream factory is going through a major meltdown due to the refrigeration failure. Mayor White goes in a panic with horror and is convinced that the ice cream meltdown will taint his reputation as a mayor. He runs away out of his office, leaving Doug alone. Doug takes a seat in the mayor's chair and gets a vicarious experience as a mayor. Doug imagines he is sitting on the mayor's chair and receives calls from many citizens. Patty then asks Doug if he plans to run for the 43rd term as the others snap pictures of him. When the phone rings again, Doug answers it and gets a call from Mr. Swirly, who informs him that a giant batch of chocolate chips are about to crash into a fan. Doug suggests to let the chips hit the fan to make chocolate swirlies, which turns successful and saves the ice cream extravaganza. Mayor White, now calm, comes back and asks Doug if there are any phone calls for him. He told him that the phone call was from Mr. Swirly and he made a decision. Just then, the citizens of Bluffington come in through the mayor's office to congratulate Doug. Doug receives accolades from many citizens for his decision. Doug is later seen in his room writing his latest event in his journal with a big box of chocolate swirly ice cream, as well as a thank you letter from Mayor White.
Compliments of Mayor White. He sent them over with a note.
Dear Doug, you're right. Sometimes you just have to let the chips hit the fan. Thanks a million. Proud? You bet I am. Signed, Mayor Robert Bob White. P.S. Vote for me.
What an episode. Doug really stepped up to save the day, didn't he? We're given a more in-depth look into Mayor Bob White, who was certainly a character of the various politicians in the early 90s. Slightly cheesy and one that stretches the truth out quite a bit. Not much has changed since then, huh? It's also a great look at showing kids that even as adults, making decisions is super difficult and that the majority of us are all kind of just going through the same thing and just trying to figure things out in life. The emphasis on the permanent record was such a big thing growing up too. This sort of thing kind of provided all kinds of anxiety as it was such a worry that any decision that you would make would affect your permanent record. I loved the absurdity of the ice cream plant melting down and flooding, and I'm sure it's happened at some point in time, but the look of it all was just ridiculous. I give this episode 3 tubs of ice cream. It's a good look at the pressure society can put on kids and adults in general to just make the right decisions, and often the right decision is just the one you actually make. Kids growing up, and even as an adult, making decisions can be super challenging, especially when you want to make the right decisions. And it's because of this mentality that I've struggled with various forms of anxiety just trying to be right. As a kid, the whole permanent record was certainly a barrier of sort to only making decisions or choices that would benefit the future, if maybe they weren't even my own decisions. Maybe they were decisions that others had for me and felt like they were the best for me, and I wanted to have that approval of others, and so I would make those decisions, but maybe they weren't the best decisions for me. Over time, I've learned to just make the decision that is right for me, and if it isn't a right decision, you can pivot to a new one in order to get back on track. There can be a detriment to the mind with trying to always be right and to make the best decision as possible. And often this can cause people to not make any decisions at all, or to only make decisions that others want for you. In general, we as your parents try to give you kids as much freedom to make the decisions you want to make, all while trying to guide you towards a path that is your own. And it can be super challenging as a parent, as you're constantly having to shift with the decisions you make in order to provide the best pathway for you. Ultimately, you kids are going to make your own decisions and be the best versions of yourselves just by making those decisions. But just remember, your mom and I are always here to help you think and talk out and find the best path and make the decision you want to make, no matter what. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Reviews for My Kids, the show where I recap, review, and reminisce on all of the things I've grown to love over the years to not only share with my kids, but with you as well. Tune in next time. Bye!